All right, aloha family. It's been a while since I've done a live Q&A, trying out a new setup. So I'd love to see and hear what you guys think of the quality. I'm not even sure how good my internet connection is out here or the audio. So by all means, please comment and share. This is a Sunday talk story session. Wanted to share some of the exciting things I've been getting into, expanding my approach to training, refining my diet, refining my service. It's just been a good time. Got a birthday coming up in about 1 week. Actually, it's next Wednesday, but we're having a party on Friday, so you guys should totally join. It's been an interesting thing because I live on an island with a lot of vegans, and I used to live basically in the mecca of vegan land, one of the originators of the raw food craze. And so it's been interesting. Just now I'm in a much more open environment. The people I live with all consume meat as well. One of them has been carnivore as long as I have been. And so it definitely has been nice to have that support. And it's been really interesting because we have a lot of dinners. We invite people over for dinner a lot. And you just always get in the conversation of food. It seems to be something that so many people are still trying to figure out. And that seems ridiculous considering how advanced we are in so many other realms. And I have to say, I do believe the potential that I have finally resolved at least this first sphere of my earth chakra, you could say, in my journey up the spine. That I've come to a nice solid foundation for my earth, for my root, for how to nurture my physical, how to survive and sustain my physical body. And part of me just thinks it was ridiculous how long it took me. And I'm extremely grateful for how simple it is. Because before the previous diet I was on, the all-in protocol, it would take me multiple consults and sessions with people to get them up to speed on all of the different nutraceuticals, the timing of things, adapting different meal plans or approach to macros, dealing with all the challenges along the way. It was really difficult, and when you're trying to find a solution that makes it easy to help the most amount of people, eating locally raised ruminant animals is a fantastic solution. So I'm extremely grateful for it all. Now, to my eye, to everything that I've read and I've seen on the internet, all of the debates and all the research, it is clear to me that the animal nutrition provides a much easier path to a vital body. The challenges of trying to overcome certain nutrient deficiencies on a plant-based diet is really difficult. You wouldn't imagine it would be so difficult to just be able to feed yourself as a human, as an animal whose ancestry has survived hundreds of millions of years on this planet. And so to me it seems obvious. And so many vegans will agree that veganism is not about optimizing your health. It's about the animals. And I love and support that amount of heart. I really do love it. And I find it brings you into a really fascinating field of philosophy when you start to get into that realm of taking life to live. Because that can be viewed at so many different depths. Everybody's perception is so unique. And I really just enjoy what comes out of those conversations. Because as I said, I've been on this farm, we've been eating a lot of meat here, but I live in a largely vegan community, largely plant-based community. And we have a lot of friends that we've been friends with for a long time, and they come over and, you know, some eat meat with us, some of them don't. But either way, the conversation's always fascinating because how you relate to life, how you relate to death, how you value a different hierarchy of life forms. I just find it all fascinating. Like I was asking my friend, one of my common questions is, so you value a cow more than a cockroach, right? How about a cow more than a mouse? How many mice would it take to equal the life of a cow? Now we say we value this form of life more because it's sentient, but also in the perspective you could look at quantum mechanics, which has shown us that all of life is sentient. All matter demonstrates awareness. If you're not aware of these studies, you have to dive into the foundational studies that we have on quantum mechanics. Matter demonstrates awareness. How fascinating is that? The wood, the chair that I'm sitting on, the rocks in the yard, every particle of it is aware. So to put life in this hierarchical form when everything is just a piece of this masterpiece of a puzzle, it's kind of a fascinating perception. It's just really interesting. I mean, we know, we've already seen that plants can actually have, fear for their own lives and demonstrate feelings of pain. So plants aren't necessarily an easy way to say that you're not taking life. That's a lower form of life, so it doesn't matter as much as a higher form of life. I find the whole topic fascinating, as I've said. So I've been in some really good conversations recently with a lot of my friends here. I want to check in and love to hear, the sound is a little low. Hopefully, let me know if it's gotten any better. You typed that a little bit ago. So just tune in with you guys and hear how the quality of this is. I want to get a good setup so that I can come and just talk story more frequently. So if somebody would do me the favor, hit a thumbs up, send a message, let me know how it's sounding. And let me know if you've been in a similar situation. Yeah, okay, I can try and sit here then. So I appreciate that, guys. So I don't know where you guys are at personally, but I have a lot of friends who have been vegan or who still are vegan. And even some of the more famous high up individuals, they're in a really challenged spot. You can definitely tell there's a high level of interest in what I'm doing when I look at them. Like, they feel challenged and they feel intrigued, but there's such a large piece of their identity that is connected with their diet. So that's another point I would love to make, is be really careful what you identify yourself as. Anything, really, even a human, is still too shallow. It's nice to have the camaraderie of family with your fellow humans, but still on a deeper level, you're much more than a human. So it seems the more shallow our identity, when we start to identify like above a human, I'm not just a human, I'm a white male, or I'm a vegan white male, we are limiting ourselves and we're identifying something that's not real, and that's guaranteed to cause suffering at some point. The vegan gods are pissed. I know, because they want a steak so bad. It's tough. And I want them to know that if they choose to eat it, I'm not going to judge them. I won't smite them. And if it's not for them, they can go right back to what they're doing. That's great. Don't even try. I don't care. I got nothing but love and appreciation. So really, I've just been experiencing the joy, the simplicity of it all, the joy of being able to share a feast with my friends, the joy of being more sustainable and local than I've ever been before. So understand, I've been farming, biodynamic farming, permaculture, for the last 8 years. And I have attempted on multiple accounts to live completely just within my kingdom, as you could say. To live with the foods that I can get in my neighborhood, or that I can grow myself on an even shorter experiment. It's extremely difficult. Fruits don't fruit all season. And fructose, just in general, I'm not made to consume fructose. I'm not made to consume a lot of carbs. I do better on higher fat, higher protein. And that is a genetic variance, I believe. It depends on where your ancestry comes from, what your genes have gotten good at. So I have tried repeatedly to live in a sustainable manner within the island that I live on, without animal products. And it just didn't work. It didn't work. I tried. And man, it's interesting. Like I said, I'm surrounded by a lot of vegans, a lot of plant-based individuals, and so I have a lot of opportunities to witness the long-term effects on it as well. Now, some people definitely are faring far better than others. That's true, you got me, blood. Sugar, water, and eat chips. Dude, I'll try that one. All right. I'll go back. No, no. I can't make a joke about that. Yep, I tried every different iteration of the diet myself, and still, my my experience is not going to let you know what your experience will be. So, try away. Um, I'm just in love with the simplicity of it all. I live completely sustainably. However, I do buy butter and whey protein right now, and my salt is not from here. I can improve that. I can get the salt from the South Shore. They still harvest it there, but 98% of my calories, 95% of my calories are from this island, from grass-fed. Just, it's beautiful how they raise them. I'm gonna take a camera out there and show you guys the field. It's ludicrous. These animals are epic. So I had a friend come in town 2 weeks ago, a week ago, and he wanted to celebrate. So he bought a whole half of a lamb, because you can actually save a lot of money if you buy uh, either a whole or half animal. Now, half of a cow. If I bought a whole cow, I could literally live for a year and a half on it. The half of the lamb was like 20 pounds of meat. Put the leg into a Dutch oven with some garlic and some sage. Barbecued the chops. It was ludicrous. Yeah. So awesome. I got some questions. I really appreciate it. Blood Raven, I'm sorry I'm a murderer. Don't worry though, if you're afraid of people fucking up the world, everybody gets what's coming to them. The inescapable karma. This is your own creation and you will face your own judgment. So don't worry about, trying to scare people or threaten them, even though I know he's just kidding. Everybody gets what's coming to them. So questions, please. I'd love to start talking story more. What kind of animal products do you like best? Specific cuts, etc. So beef and lamb. Lamb seems to be the most digestible. It's also one of the favored foods of the Mongolians. And there's another nomadic herding tribe that also favored lamb. They had cattle as well and yak, but lamb seems to be, or mutton, which is kind of like the teenage. I think you got, what's the order? Is it lamb, mutton, sheep? I forget. It's extremely easy to assimilate and digest. Um, However, on top of that, beef. I love steaks. I love ribeyes if I can get them. But recently, I've really been into eating liver. I'm eating a questionably high amount of liver for sure, like 10 ounces a day, more than half a pound for the last week. I'm gonna get a blood test in another week for my birthday. And so I'm gonna see if I'm copper toxicity or iron toxicity or what's happening there, but I feel really good when I eat a lot of liver. And liver is one of the first organs that is eaten whenever the prey takes down their kill. They say that's how you know who the alpha wolf is of the pack in a wolf pack, because the alpha gets the liver. And after that, they tend to eat the fattier tissues. So most recently, I've been eating liver and heart. And I just slice the heart real thin and barbecue it on low. I don't overcook things. They're not charred. They're not even really that cooked. And then some fat, and that's either in like a butter. I've been doing this butter hot sauce. It's almost like a sriracha. It's ridiculous. And I've been doing just straight beef fat. You get chunks of beef fat pretty cheap. I'll throw those on the grill too. They're ridiculous. It's ludicrous how good it tastes. You wouldn't think, if you weren't supposed to eat that, it wouldn't taste so delicious. What kind of a trick is that? Yo, what's up, Kevin from Denver, Colorado, man? Just to do some talk story. So Sfreerange says we're domesticated. Is this true? Most humans are now definitely domesticated. As Vitalis puts it, what is Homo fragilis? Very sensitive and fragile. And here's from cancer. 60% of dogs die from cancer. How fucking natural is that? And you know why? Because of their shit fucking kibble. Their grain-based diets. That's what's causing cancer. And you wonder why we're getting cancer. Dogs are getting diabetes. How weird is that? So having this kind of diet does make you fragile, does make you more sensitive, does make you more depressed, more anxious. a weaker mind, a weaker ability to discern truth when you're information. So it's really profound. To me, sometimes looking at food is too mundane, but the profundity, like as above, so below, your connection, your food in this world is going to be reflected in your mind. So that's why there's so much mental illness, because we don't even know how to feed ourselves. We don't ever feel secure in our root. So that's the challenge that we're in today. And yes, we're most certainly domesticated. We're like, some farm raised animals. Mining gold, I think that's the best theory I've heard. We're a bunch of gold miners. So how did you end up on such an amazing farm? How did you get there? I want to live in a natural environment. I want to live in nature and closer to nature and more simply. And so I want a whole video on it, but just a quick overview. I was born in Tallahassee, Florida. Not a bad upbringing. Story can be too complex, but I definitely was in a tough spot when I was 18, 19, selling drugs, not heading in a good direction with the people I was hanging out with. Got arrested almost twice. And a blessing for me, I found my Kung Fu teacher. I started learning Kung Fu, and he opened up every door you can imagine. He taught me about traditional Chinese medicine, Qigong, hermetics and alchemy, ancient Egyptian alchemy, different forms of meditation, yoga, Ayurveda. Every book this guy opened for me. And along that time, I also learned about The Secret and the Kabbalion and the ability of our mindset, of our perception to affect our reality. And so money was a very spot for me at that time. Like I'm selling drugs to try and do it, and it makes me so nervous. I was so anxious all the time because I always had drugs on me. And I definitely value my freedom. So the fact that somebody can throw you in jail for the rest of your life, 4 years, is fucking scary. Morning and evening, writing and meditating on generating that feeling of what abundance feels like, of what it feels like to have the job that fulfills me, sustains me. After a few weeks of that intently, consistently, I picked a job, started doing some computer programming, and even lost my Kung Fu. I was in this spot, but I'd saved up a whole bunch of money. So at one point, when we were just going south with my work, wasn't enjoying it anymore. It was really stressing me out. My friend was moving out to Hawaii, and he had a godfather out here, just coming to visit. But right when I heard he was coming out here, I was, dude, I'm there. I'd saved up, I had about 10 grand in the bank, and I quit, and I cruised 2 years old. I'm turning 33 next Wednesday, so it is I still have to integrate more deeply in myself. Right now I'm doing a work trade on a friend's property. Both the main places that I've lived here have been work trades where I can work and exchange rent for the place that I live. And in doing that, it's taught me a lot of skills for landscaping, permaculture, growing food, caretaking an entire house, how to fix broken appliances to windows to minor construction. So I've picked up skills that have made me more valuable. But there's definitely, ultimately, the main point that I also want to make, besides the ability that you can influence your reality, the most valuable thing in life is your community, connections, your friendships. It's our relationships that everything we get in life comes through. If you want money, it's going to come from somebody else. Somebody has to give it to you. So ultimately, all of our energetic exchanges, and even on a deeper level, after you get the money, you're surviving. What you want is deep, loving connection. Get to that second chakra, the relationships, the emotion, the intimacy. So really developing strong connection, being a good person, being kind, learning to help others, viewing people, your family, and their well-being as your well-being is vital. And the more people that you support like this, the stronger your family gets, the more opportunities you have, the more wealth comes into your life. So that's really pretty much been able to survive on this island for this long. Yeah, so that's the long story short right there. So Honest AF says, according to Freely, eating an egg is murder, but is okay because it's just a bunch of cells. What the fuck? I guess that's the debate as to when the consciousness comes into the body. I believe the Tibetans thought it was like 42 days after conception. I'm not gonna fret over that. Who knows? I think everybody should have freedom of choice to have an abortion or to eat an egg. Freedom of choice. Ultimately, everybody's gonna get their own karma. You don't have to worry about over. So that's an interesting thing because you definitely want to do what you can to minimize the evil in this world if you can help it. But you don't ever have to worry about them getting justice. That's the guaranteed uh, built-in commodity of this self-created universe. You are going to be recipient of evil intentions. Okay, is the whey protein you're eating have any carbs? I think it's like 1 or 2, super minimal. And do you eat any carbs at all? Recently experimenting with carb cycling. I was dextrose, which is like pure glucose, right after I was training to try to replete glycogen and accelerate my ability to get back to training sooner. Um, Last week I started to consume kalo or taro, which is a root vegetable. Now, my perception of how I want to do it now is I'm eventually going to learn what it feels like when I really have hunger for that. But for right now, like every once a week, have my meal be completely carbohydrates, not adding meat on top of that, fat, because you're going to be jacking your insulin levels up. I'm not trying to store excess fat, but I am trying to drive in the proper nutrients, the minerals, because carbohydrates can boost the absorption of salts. So it can be extremely hydrated, to say the least, and also replenishing your glycogen stores so that you're loaded for the next couple days of training, depending on how intense your training sessions are. So that's my approach right now. Once every few days or so, dinner instead of liver and heart are going to be a whole bunch of kalo and some salt, maybe some minerals. I don't know, but that's going to be the simple view of it. Just a whole bunch of kalo or some sweet potatoes. Awesome. I appreciate the question, Georgie. So, our friend David Emilio, what's up, brother? Greetings from Italy. All right. Question: after 3 years from your video on Dr. Amin Ra, would you still recommend his protocol? Thank you. Love your videos. So for me, that's certainly still an experiment. It's very much a big experiment. It's very complicated, and I personally ran into difficulty. I ran into challenges in my health. I had severe edema where I was holding water. One night, one day I almost passed out while I was driving, and it took me months to figure it out because it came in waves. My deterioration was so slow, I didn't really see it until in like 3 years or so. So that's the tough part. It's not like you just lose your health rapidly. It happens gradually. And I know that, so I was pairing ketogenic. I've talked about this in the past. I have multiple videos on the way I relate to Amin's diet now. I was using ketogenic diet at the time too, so this definitely exacerbated my problem with holding on to minerals. But ultimately, I ended up anemic, and after getting a blood test, I found that to be the case. And one night, if I was in the hospital, they probably would have been injecting me with, potassium and electrolytes and really having me under watch because I was that far off. It was crazy how much water my body would hold. And reset the protocol completely for 3 months, doing it to the T, and it didn't solve my issues. I was still having the problem. So I consulted on, and my best theory was that my genetics are different. African Americans tend to be more prone to high blood pressure because they hold on to more salt than Caucasians. So that's a demonstration that genetics will affect your hold on to different minerals. Genetics affect what optimal for you. And so although I got profound gifts out of that experience, I really dove into chronic fast. I got really in depth onto individual nutraceuticals and minerals. I learned a lot, but now things are so simple. I still fast chronically. you know, 2 to 3 days a week, 23-hour fast. Otherwise, I'm breaking my fast midday, early afternoon. And so I'm still implementing principles there, but there are certain ideas of the protocol that I just don't agree with anymore. Like, we are in when it comes to understanding the complexity of how this biological machine works. So we see minimizing methionine lengthens lifespan. It'll also minimize your growth. So if you're not a fully grown and you start using your methionine, you're going to retard your aging. Along with your aging, you're longer, you're not going to get to your full potential. That's a problem for me. So trying to find the between reaching your full potential and living the longest, most enjoyable life possible, the name of the game. Now they've all found that high doses of glycine balance the methionine. You need the right amount of B6 to balance the methionine. So the level of intricacy that is involved in our understanding of how different amino acids or caloric restriction or different macros affect our health, we are children in the field. So I think it is personally dangerous to adhere to a study and is correct and then set your whole life on it. I think that's dangerous. You got to be careful with your level of certainty in a world where change is the only certain thing. And I know I remember when I first proposed the ketogenic diet to Amin, his two votes against it, why fat as your main fuel is a bad idea, is cholesterol and heart disease. These things have been totally disproved. Even the nutrition on the government level has changed their opinion on saturated fat, high cholesterol, or the link between high cholesterol and heart disease. So it's bad information, and so I think it's always dangerous to get committed and identified with a piece of information. I'm totally wrong because I definitely also I can the highest height reached. I'm about 6 or 8 months in. I'm almost 6 months in on this diet right now. So I learned a lot from it. It could be very valuable to each individual to go through that trial because it's definitely extremely challenging. It will strengthen your willpower, your ability to focus, the control of your mind, and the clarity of your mind. However, I think, personally, I think it's risky. It's risky. But got nothing but love for the whole scene, all the Ammonites. So your ratio of fat, what do you think of protein to fat? 2 to 1 grams or calories? I'm gonna guess you're speaking gram. I think 1 to 1 is probably more ideal because 35% protein to 65% fat is gonna happen if you're on a 1 to 1. Yeah, or 25 to 35%. Some people do higher protein, and it depends on your goals, what you're trying to reach. If you're trying to lower your body fat, you lower the amount of fat you consume. You can increase the protein because it's to satiate. It's also thermogenic, so it'll help you just burn off more calories. I don't. I think I'm around about 150 grams of protein a day with the whey protein powder I'm doing, and then with the butter, they just eat that to satiation. I'm probably around 2,800 calories a day, something like that, 25. Now, I'm also in flux, right? Sometimes my work is really heavy in like construction or a lot of hands-on yard work. And while I'm training, my caloric requirements can fluctuate. So ultimately, it helps to eat simple and to really learn each individual macro, what it feels like. Is this a protein hunger or is this a hunger for fat and energy? And potentially is this a hunger for carbohydrates? I believe there's a value, like we were speaking about before, in carbohydrate cycling and keeping metabolism flexible. Make sure I'm not killing my, yep, no idea how much battery I have either, guys, so I guess it'll warn me. So yeah, my probably around 150 grams. Fat, honestly, couldn't tell you. Awesome, guys. So it's Sunday. Hope you're freaking it. Call your call your family. built good relationships. Seriously, I moved out of the country. I lived in Thailand in 2012. I was that shit was gonna collapse, and I was in this little Muay Thai school up in the mountains with like two other people, and I loved those guys, and it was a beautiful experience. But something I realized at that time was that relationships are the most beautiful part of all of life. When you die, you don't think, I never got that car. I never had. You think about those people you love and the things you wish you would have said or done. So realize that, remember that, cultivate those things. And I have a belief that the more we build those, the more other wealth shows up in our life. And then the more that we have to share with other people. Cool. Awesome. Thank you, Georgie. Thank you, everybody, for coming, kicking it. Let me know what you think of this video format. See if I can hit it at least once a weekend. Try and give you guys some heads up next time. Love and aloha. See you guys in the next one. Peace.